All right, now we are recording. Thank you, Don, for that. So let's go over number one, the best practice on how to create an opportunity in order for you to even see your checklist. The best way to do that is by doing it in your contacts. So the first thing we're going to do is jump into our contacts, and we're either going to search for the potential client or we're going to add them in. So if you've never spoken to this person, this is a brand new person, you're most likely going to go to the far right and hit the blue button that says add contact. In this case, for the class, I'm going to use myself. So that is not my name. Hold that thought. So I'm just searching, and now I'm going to choose who it is that I'm going to work with, and I'm going to work with Davies Test. Okay, so Davies Test is my client today. Once I've found the client, now on the right-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and click on opportunities whenever it loads. There we go. And once I've selected opportunities, if you've ever had an opportunity with this person, it's going to show on the right and it's going to show you the dates that you created them. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that question. So the question in the room was, yeah, no, the great question. So the question in the room is, do I create an opportunity only if I'm going to have a real transaction with this person, or do I create an opportunity when we're just talking? And that's a great, great question. And I'm going to create an opportunity so you guys can get the answer. So great question. And let's just dive in so you guys can see what an opportunity is truly used for. So on the right, I'm going to hit create. First couple of things I'm going to look at. What's my opportunity type? So this person told me they want to sell their property, rent their property. Are they a tenant looking for a rental, or are they a buyer looking to buy a property? Let's pretend that Davies Test is going to be listing her property. So let's kind of go down. Then you're going to see the next thing that is asterisk, that has an asterisk, is going to be the client, which we already have there. Davies is selling on her own, but if she was not, this is your opportunity to make sure you have your co-seller. Let's look at opportunity name. Here's a best practice from a compliance standpoint. In order for us to easily find your opportunity when we need to check something, is by changing this to property address. When you are working with a listing, whether it be a landlord or a seller, you have the property address, right? Everybody knows it. It's there. Go ahead and name it right off the bat. Let's say you are working with a tenant or a buyer. We don't have a property address yet. You can go ahead and leave it as first name, last name, dash buyer. Leave it as is. It's okay. I'll show you guys in a second how you can change that later on. Then let's jump down to, well, what's my commission rate? Well, I know I'm going to go in and I'm going to negotiate X bananas. Okay. So I'm just going to put a big number here. I'm going to put 100 just for the sake of the class. Okay. Here is to answer your question. So you have different phases in an opportunity. An opportunity is for your pipeline. It is a way for us in the system to help you understand, well, based on the phases that you have entered these opportunities, is going to help you determine your probable and possible income. So if you have them under cultivate, it's not going to show as possible income. It's going to show as probable, because maybe we'll make the money, right? So
I just took them out.
Person. I'm just warming them up. Can I get them to trust me? Can I get them to understand my value? Oh my gosh, they want to set an appointment with me. Now I'm under the appointment phase, still under probable, not possible. Why? Because, well, the appointment hasn't happened yet, right? Now I'm active. Got my appointment, got my agreement signed. I am active. So let's pretend right now I'm going to stick with appointment because I'm going to go on my listing appointment. So once you select appointment, it's going to ask you, are you scheduling it? Has it been scheduled, or did you already have it? Right? Has it been kept? So I'm going to say it's been scheduled. Why I'm creating this opportunity right now is because in order for me to get to my appointment, I need to have my documents ready to go. Right? So this is me preparing the opportunity so I can go into DocuSign to prepare my document. So to answer your question, you can do it if it's just I don't really know if they want to work with me yet, but I know we had a real estate conversation. What I'm going to suggest as a best practice, if you did not have a real estate conversation, they're not an opportunity. Think opportunity to make money. Opportunity to be paid, opportunity, right? So that's how you want to think of this. If you had a conversation with someone at Publix that said, please give me a call tomorrow because I want to talk to you about what the market is looking like right now, That's a potential opportunity. But did you ask them, are they a homeowner? Do we know it's because they want to list or is it because they want to buy? Did you find that out? If it was a very bare conversation, it's not ready for an opportunity. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and create. Once I do that, it brings me back to my contact card. And again, it's going to show you those dates. So I just taught the class yesterday. That's why you see that there. So I'm going to select today's opportunity. When I select it, it will open up a new tab. That new tab will not open if you have a pop-up blocker. The system isn't broken. Your system has a pop-up blocker. Okay, so make sure you remove your pop-up blocker if you don't see this happen. All right, once it loads up, we're going to get to the section of the opportunities. Let's see if magic works. Pixie dust, nothing working yet. Okay, hold that up. My peripheral is like, okay. So let's take a look quickly at the details from a compliance standpoint. When you are working with a listing, you want to go ahead and submit the listing here in the property box. Why? Because you already have the address. Go ahead and sync that property right away. Remember I told you you can change the name of an opportunity? That happens here in the details section. When you go to key information, which is the first box on the left, there's a pencil to the right. It is very, very faint. You almost can't even see the pencil, but I promise you it's there, okay? When you click it, it's not going to open up all the fields for you to make any edits that you may need. Now, I want you guys to take a look right here under opportunity phase. In order for compliance to have access to your documents, this must be active. So if you created it under cultivator appointment, make sure that when you have moved over to active, because you are actively under contract, whether it be with your listing agreement and it's now on the MLS or with an as-is contract, you've changed this to active. When you have a listing agreement signed, in the sake of a listing, when you have your listing agreement signed, you're active. For the sake of a buyer, when that buyer brokerage agreement has been signed by all parties, you go active. Why? Because you guys signed that so you can start looking for stuff or selling their property. So make sure that that gets changed to active. The opportunity stage is more for your pipeline than it is for us. So make sure that you put this wherever you're at in that process, okay? Next thing down here, you're going to see if you needed to make any changes to the commission, if you needed to add your listing price, all of that can be done here. But again, the most important things are going to be that opportunity name, which lives at the top, and that opportunity phase being changed to active in order for compliance to have full access. Zoom World or in-house, any questions so far before I move into the documents? This is where the fun is going to begin. All right. Let's move to the documents tab. So the reason why I'm hosting this and sharing this all week long is because we've added new checklists and updated the checklist. So we want to be sure that you guys understand the things that are required or conditionally required. So I'm going to help you guys read this and understand how to use this to make your transaction go smoothly and not delay your payment. Because I have Dakota in the room and he can tell you we get a lot of angry birds that are part of our market center that get mad when they don't get paid on time. But if you're not doing what we're asking of you, how can you expect us to, right? So it's a 50-50 relationship, this relationship between you and the brokerage. So I'm going to hit pick checklist type. When I select that, I now have different options. I have single family homes, listing referrals, commercial sales, or condo townhomes. Okay, so let's go over single family. When I select single family, you will see on the left, you will now have 3 checklists. So you have your listed, you're under contract, and you're closed. Each section is going to have a different set of paperwork that is required by the market center. It is required by the market center because 99% of these documents are required by the state. All right. It's not a requirement by us, 99% of them. 1% is. All right. So let's look at listed. So I want you guys to take a look. You have your status, your requirement, your document, your type, and your file. So status will be based on, did you upload it? Did you not? Is it resubmitted? Was it rejected? Was it approved? Okay, so those are going to be your statuses. That is not done by you. That is actually done by us in the back end. We change the status of the documents as we start receiving them. You have your requirement. Everybody, what does required mean? Must have. Black and white, no gray area. We need it. Okay. Next to the requirement, you're going to see an I. That I is going to give you some information. So for example, tax record, the record provides evidence that the person or persons conveying ownership actually has the right to do so. So I'll give you a great example. Let's say I go to an appointment with Mickey Mouse and Mickey Mouse is like, yeah, this is my property. And I get a listing agreement signed by Mickey Mouse. But guess what? When I go back and look at the tax record, it was actually Donald Duck's house. Guess who is not under contract?
Me.
Me. I'm not under contract. I can't sell that property, not legally at least, right? And we do everything ethically and legally up in here, okay? So with that being said, tax record required, period. Listing agreement, why would that be required? I just said it. We need proof that the seller is giving me the authority or the brokerage the authority to sell their property. Seller's property disclosure, you will see here, it says signed by seller. Do not wait to give your seller's property disclosure to your seller after you go under contract. Please don't do that. Do your due diligence as an agent and get that signed and ready to go right at the moment you're having your listing appointment, period. Make that your best practice. You're going to save yourself a headache. Then you have wire fraud prevention. We live in Florida. That's it. That's the why. Okay. Too much scamming going on, too much wire fraud going on. We live in Florida. Get that thing signed. Net sheet. So this is actually new. Before it was a conditional requirement. Now we require for you to have a net sheet for your sellers. So who does a net sheet? Our wonderful partners at Universal Titles of South Florida. They do it. Yep. Teresa Pardo. They will create a net sheet for you. And many other title partners will create that net sheet for your listing, for that seller. You give them the information, they can create it for you. Have them create, you upload. Okay. A lot of our seasoned agents have their own net sheet formula Excel sheets. Great, but I'm not good at math and I don't want to mess up someone's potential net numbers. So I'm going to let the professionals do that because I'm not very good at it. Okay. So make sure we use our partners for that. So it is required now. MLS sheet is required. The moment you go live on the MLS, we need a copy of that MLS sheet, period. Okay. All right. So let's talk about these forms down here. They are conditional. Why would they be conditional? Because it's going to depend on your transaction. So let's talk about the status change form. That is conditional. If some sort of status change happens, we need the proof that it's, done in the system.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's talk about articles of
Why
incorporation.
is that pepper still on you?
One moment. A lot of investors will buy
Pepper is
property and
falling
sell it.
off.
So now you have Davies Herrera LLC as the owner. I need the articles of incorporation, the office does, to show proof of who is signing off that document. Because here's what we've seen lately. We will go ahead and look at the tax record. Tax record says it's ABC LLC, right? That's the owner of the unit or the listing. And then we find signatures that don't match who the actual manager is of that company. So what happens? Who is not under contract? Us.
Yeah.
We're not under contract. Susie, you had a question, and then Zoom, I'm going to go into the chat box. Go ahead. No, great question. So a status change form is used if, let's say right now the listing is active in the MLS, but then the seller says, hey, look, life happened and I can't sell this property right now. We need to withdraw it from the MLS. There's a form, you select what the status change is, and then you go from there. This is not required when you're going from active to pending to closed. That is not what a status change form is required for. So great question. 1 second, Miss Sally, if you had a question, I'm not sure. All right, Zoom world, let's see.
Yes, I have a question.
I don't see it. Oh, yes. Okay, Don, you're amazing.
Hello?
Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna make Don co-host here.
She can't hear.
John, I see that you have your digital hand. Talk to me.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear
Or
me?
not? I don't hear you. Are you talking?
Hello?
Hold on. I don't hear anything. You imagine
about
this whole
now?
time they probably were saying something.
Can anybody hear me?
Like the voice of God. Yes, we can hear
I can hear you,
you.
Don. I can hear you, Don.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so for the MLS sheet, right? Before I know it was because of the
Mm-mm.
Hello?
We lost.
You were talking about the MLS sheet?
Oh, I just went on mute. Yes. So with the MLS sheet, I know before why they required it was because of the commission. They wanted to show exactly how much the listing agent said they was going to pay out. Now that's not going to be a field that's included into the MLS. What is another reason why it's still being
What's the proof?
That's a great question, John. And one of the main reasons we still want the copy of the MLS sheet is because we want to see what you put on there. Simple. We need to be able to keep you guys as agents accountable. And if we become liable for something, we need proof of everything. So I hope that's the simplest answer I can give you. I think that that's the simplest answer I can give you. If you go back to the DocuDive, Adrian can kind of dive into that question a little bit more for you. But I think ultimately we need it just to make sure that you guys are held accountable for whatever you've entered. God forbid you put something wrong, we need to be able to address that, right? We are
Gotcha.
not going into everyone's listing. So
Right.
yeah,
Now,
exactly.
will that still be required on the buyer side as well too, or no?
Correct. Yes. Yes, because we need to see what it is that that listing agent put in there, right? No matter what, even if it's, let's say they put the wrong HOA cost, right? All of that information is, we can view that on that MLS sheet. So we need to be able to see what's been put on there. So yes, MLS sheet, keep it as your best practice. First two things you should be uploading are tax record and MLS sheet when you're working with a buyer, period. That should be the first two things that are being uploaded because you need to be able to see that. I hope that answered your question, John.
It did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Sally. No? Okay, sorry. I believe it. I believe it. It could also be your screen. You may have to zoom out a little bit and then it should adjust because I think it's only 2. So if it's 3, it might be that you've enlarged something there, but that's good. All right, next thing is the blasting disclosure. So as you can see on this listed side, it says seller signed. What is the blasting disclosure? I'll make it very easy. A blasting disclosure is allowing the client to know, hey, this property is in a blasting area where we're doing rock quarry blasting. Hey, you may or may not feel a tremble.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you guys have a question or are you guys just unmuted? Okay, I went ahead and muted everybody, sorry. If you have a question, remember, please raise your digital hand. I will go ahead and be checking that as often as possible. All right, we're good with that. Okay, so a blasting disclosure, if you look to the left, you're gonna see conditional and an I. That I is gonna give you the cities where the listings will fall under. So if you are selling or buying a property within Miramar, Doral, Miami Lakes, Hialeah Gardens, or Palm Springs North, you are required to provide your client with a blasting disclosure. Okay, so with that being said, when you're representing the listing, as you're doing your listing agreement, what else are you going to tackle onto that? Your seller's property disclosure and your blasting disclosure. Get it already signed by your seller right away. Okay. Again, conditional, because if you're selling in plantation, guess who doesn't need a blasting disclosure? You. Okay. So we're good with that. Make sure you're looking at that I. Lead-based paint disclosure. When would the lead-based paint disclosure be absolutely required? When? Pre-78. Any property that you're selling pre-1978, or if your client is buying it, we need the lead-based paint disclosure. I'm gonna make it very clear, guys, this is a federal requirement. You know how many documents and files we hold up because you don't provide the lead-based paint? I cannot pay you until you provide that to the office. It is a federal requirement. We cannot pay out any agent commission until that is presented to the office. Fully executed, by the way. So again, if your property is pre-78 and you're going for that listing appointment, guess what else you're tacking along to your listing agreement. So we have seller's property disclosure, blasting disclosure if applicable, and lead-based paint disclosure if applicable. Okay. Next thing, HOA disclosure. If the community has an HOA, please give that to your seller right away as well. Have them sign it because eventually we're going to need it signed by all parties. So don't delay, get it done right away. See what I did there? I should be a rapper, a poet, son. All right, next thing. If the seller says, hey, I want to go ahead and sign your compensation disclosure agreement, this is optional. Remember, your listing agreement, if you do it right and you're having the right conversations, will already list your compensation and cooperating if the seller agrees to offer cooperating compensation. Okay. All right. So once you've uploaded all of those documents, you're going to hit submit to Market Center. Yes. Sure. Okay, 2 bananas. Perfect.
The seller, she found the house and the seller is willing to pay 1.5%.
Your buyer will be responsible for the remaining half. So the question was, if my buyer brokerage agreement has X amount of bananas that the buyer is gonna pay me, seller decides I'm gonna pay 0.5 less than that, who is responsible for it? Your buyer. Your buyer agreed to X amount, seller's only offering X amount, the difference goes back to your buyer, which means a modification to compensation agreement must be provided to the office. You have to present that over to your buyer and say, hey, you no longer have to pay me the 2 bananas. Now you only got to pay me half of a banana. Yay! Who is not going to sign that? That's I cannot say it in a group setting. You can absolutely say the correct thing, the correct verbiage and everything to your client. Great question. No, you don't have to use bananas or apples or food when you're talking to your client. But in a group setting, we cannot use the other words. Okay. All right. So let me talk to you guys about timeline real quick before I move on. Listing agreements must be in the office, period, 48 hours. 48 hours after you have that listing agreement signed by you and your seller, please upload it immediately and hit submit. Now, I want you guys to understand what happens after that. Let's say after you have your listing agreement, you've uploaded it, but you're missing a couple of other documents, you will have your file rejected. It'll be rejected because compliance is going to say, hey, but you're missing your net sheet. That's okay. Get your net sheet and then resubmit it. One thing that's going to be very important, every time you change or upload a new document, this button will be blue and will say submit, or it'll say resubmit. If you do not hit the resubmit button, you are not advising compliance that you are ready for us to review the document. We're not just going through and saying, I wonder if Susie resubmitted today. We're not doing that. We have 800 and something agents. We're worried about everybody else that already hit submit. Okay, yes, Miss Susie. Never crazy.
378, you know how they do remodels and take and put all new stuff in, is it still considered 378?
That's a great question. So the question is for the lead-based paint disclosure. If the property was built pre-1978, but they remodeled everything, does that count? I'm going to say based on an experience that actually just happened last week with an agent who had a remodeled condo in Miami, but the building was pre-78, we still required the lead-based paint because ultimately the building, the structure is still pre-78. So now if they knock that house down and then rebuild it, now we're not pre-78 anymore. Ultimately, the foundation is still from pre-78. Well, you know what I mean? All those things are still pre-78. So great question. I would say best practice, if you know it was built before 78, just get that thing signed. Renovated or not, get it signed. That's going to be my advice to you guys. Okay, so remember 48 hours after your listing agreement, go ahead and submit to Market Center. Then let's say, great, we're live on the MLS. We just got an offer. Yay! We're going under contract. Now I'm moving on to my next checklist. Let's take a look at that. So number 1, we have the purchase contract and addendas. On page 11 of your as-is contract is the paragraph at the bottom where you select the addendas that are going to be attached to this transaction. Listing agents, please double check your contracts. My favorite story to talk about is an agent about 2 years ago now in 2022, she was a listing agent, received an offer, submitted the offer. Our compliance coordinator kept rejecting it. Well, why are we rejecting it? I look at the notes say that we're missing a COVID-19 addenda. Why? The buyer's agent selected that, which means it is now part of the contract. If you do not supply all the addendas that are selected, that means you are not under contract. Your contract can go null and void if you don't supply all of those addendas. So please make sure anything that is selected, listing agents, check your documents, guys. It is ultimately on you. Ultimately on you. So making sure that you guys are selecting the correct addendas is going to be key to getting you paid on time and not delayed. Just want to be sure everybody's good. All right, no hands up. Good. All right, escrow letter. So we have escrow letter is required, but then you see here underneath, we have second escrow letter is conditional. That's if applicable. So some title companies provide one letter with all deposits. Other title companies provide one letter per deposit. So however many deposits are stated on the contract, guess how many letters we need? All those. Or your title company can provide us one letter with all the deposits and their amounts and their dates. Okay. So you'll see required versus conditional. You already know the deal. Next thing, seller's property disclosure, now signed by all parties. Okay, must be done. Now let's talk about your mortgage ABA and your universal title ABA. These ABAs, I want to give you guys a simple explanation. These ABAs were done to advise the customer, because it is our requirement from the law saying, hey, companies, you guys have to tell the client that you're in business with these other companies. Doesn't matter if your client doesn't use them, they don't have to. We're not pushing them to use it. We're just advising that they have a partnership with us. So they have a vested interest in our success. We have to just let the client know. That's all that ABA is saying. Okay, so make sure that those are done. Next thing, now we're getting into our conditionals. Okay, there's a whole lot of conditionals. And I want you guys not to get intimidated, but I want you guys to look at them as what they are. They're placeholders. If you need it, upload it. So let's talk. Compensation agreement. We have the seller to buyer's broker and the seller's broker to buyer's broker. I want you guys to understand this one that I have highlighted. The seller's broker to buyer's broker will be removed in September. Why? Because it is a requirement that your seller be the one to pay the buyer's broker. We are not responsible to go and do that exchange like we did with the previous listing agreement. Okay, go to Adrian's DocuDive classes. He'll dive in more on that. But this will be removed after September. It is currently in use for those that have existing listing agreements with the previous revision. Okay, if that doesn't make sense, it'll make more sense as you're going through all this. Next thing, we have the modifications. So let's say we uploaded one compensation, but oops, we need to do a modification. You have your placeholder for the modification. Again, conditional if applicable. If it's applicable to your transaction, please upload. Next thing, an updated net sheet if applicable. Let's say seller says, oh, well, now I got to do a concession for whatever because my pool is messed up and I don't want to reduce the price point. I just want to give a credit. Great. That's an updated net sheet opportunity. We need that in here. Lasting disclosure, again, if applicable, but the buyer must sign. Buyer must sign. It must be signed by all parties, your seller and your buyer. Next thing, FHA-VA addendum, if applicable. Base paint disclosure, if applicable. HOA, housing for older persons, condo writer, and addendas 1 through 3. So if applicable, please upload. Any questions on the under contract stage? We try to make it, I know it looks more overwhelming, but we try to make it make more sense. That's what we tried to do for you. We tried to make sure that you guys, and I'll tell you, I had a seasoned agent that looked at me and said, I didn't remember I needed the lead-based paint. That's crazy. Your property, that property was built in like 1956. The first thing I'm gonna know is, oh, I need my lead-based paint, right? This is a seasoned agent. So what we did was we did these placeholders so no one can ever say they forgot. Okay, you can't forget. It's all right here. All right. So once you have gotten your execute, oh, yes. Did someone have a question on Zoom?
Yes, the buyers, the documents when you are representing a buyer.
We're going to do those next. I'm just looking at listing first. Yep.
Yeah.
So don't worry, we will definitely get to that next. All right, so let's talk about timelines again. Now we're in the under contract phase. The moment I have an executed contract, which means buyer and sellers both signed, I have it in my hands, I can upload it into the system. You are going to upload and you are going to hit submit to MC. The same day, the same moment you're doing that, you're going to now go to the offers and commissions tab. And we're going to go ahead and create our commission information. Without this, you cannot get paid at the table. Why? Because we don't know if you charge a transaction fee. We don't know if you have to pay somebody out as a referral. We don't know any of the details until you tell us. So the same day you are uploading your as-is contract is the same day you're going to jump to your offers and commissions tab. Now let's do this real quick. You're going to hit add new offer. Now you see here I have no property address because I didn't put it in the property box. I didn't put it anywhere, right? And technically I don't have a listing live. So you would go ahead and this will actually auto-populate for you, but for the sake of the class, I'm just going to enter anything. But this again will auto-populate with this information, especially if you're the listing agent, it will auto-populate. All right, scrolling down. Okay, who's the buyer? I'm going to say Mickey Mouse. Who is the buyer's agent? Donald Duck. I like Disney, sorry. Then down here, the sales price and all of this is gonna pretty much auto-populate as far as what's happening from the MLS and when it syndicates. So let's just say 450,000. Let's say the buyer, this you would be inputting. If the buyer put any cash down, let's say 15,000. Now we know the difference of financing. Excuse me. One thing I want you guys to know is under contract date, you see there's no asterisk. It will not let you move forward unless you add it. So make it your best practice. You're going to go ahead. What is the contract date? Contract date is when the last signature was put on the contract. So if it took the seller to sign it for 3 days, that third day is the day that it's the actual contract date. So let's say they finally signed it all on 8/8. When is my closing date? Closings can take anywhere between 30 to 45 days, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do September 30th. And then you create and accept offer. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little caveat here. There's a little bug in the system. It may or may not happen to you. If it does happen to you, contact me in the chat or just watch the recording on this because you're going to see a little workaround here. All right, so here you see how it says listing not in KWLS. If this were to happen to you, you're going to hit create new listing. And you're going to fill in anything that is asterisk. Okay, so you basically are creating these listing under the KWLS. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Oops. So you guys can see. So residential. It is a single family detached home. My current price, we said 450. The street address. Oh my God, I don't even know what I put in there. Okay, boom, boom, I understand, and create and select. Once you see this, don't click anything there, just do continue to create and select, which is at the bottom right. Again, this has not been happening as often, but it's still happening somewhat, so I just went ahead and show you guys, because thankfully it did happen and you guys were able to see. Now, once you've done that, you're gonna hit save and accept. It's gonna say offer has been updated. And then it'll bring you to the money stage. All right, so this is where I want you guys to pay attention because this looks a little bit different than it did before. You now have 3 boxes that you will edit from. When you become more familiar with the system, I can teach you the best and easiest way to do this. But right now, until we learn it, I'm going to walk you guys through each box, and I expect you guys to go through each box. Why? Because your money is at stake. So I want to be sure that you guys know what's going in or out. So up here, we have general information. So we click on the pencil to the far right. Very minimal information is there. What happens if, we went from 450 and had to renegotiate for whatever reason, because instead of a concession, they wanted to go down an asking price. No problem. If I needed to do that, I make that edit right here. But keep in mind, we do need the addendum or the corrected as is. Always make sure you keep us updated. All right, so I leave that. Then I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna go to my name and hit update. So let's say in the listing agreement, the seller agreed to pay me a transaction fee. A transaction fee is going to be placed under bonus. You will not tell your seller, hey, you're going to pay me a bonus of $395. Don't say that. This is my transaction fee. This goes towards your marketing. This goes towards X, Y, and Z, right? You should be in here, but whatever. Okay, so you would enter your bonus into here. Yeah, well, I'm almost done. Oh, you're about to see it again because I'm going to go through the buyer list. Then, okay. Then you scroll down, enter anything else that is relevant and hit save. Now, I want you guys to notice up there, it said it was out of balance. I'll show you guys where to fix that in a second. You come down to listing commission, you hit edit. You're going to go again. Look, oh, boom. My bonus is blank here. I got to enter what that amount was. Boom. Now it's balanced. Okay. Hit save. Lastly, you have your agent payment. Edit agent payment. Go through this one last time. Remember, you're going to go through every single edit box available in here. Come in, make sure everything looks good. Do I have an outside referral? Do I need to pay someone? This is your opportunity to remember all of those things. I'm going to cancel. Everything looks good. Let's say I forgot my outside referral. I want you guys to look. Commission information, listing commission. You have add outside referral and add co-broker. Please choose outside referral. outside referral. I'm gonna repeat that one more time, outside referral. Whatever I agree to pay this outside referral, I'm gonna put that in either the percentage or the box here. Then I'm gonna enter the representative's name, enter the information from their W-9. Remember, we do not pay the agent, we pay the brokerage. So we need the brokerage W-9. Enter all that information, hit add to outside referral. Once you've completed all this, you look to the right, look at your summary. Ooh, everything looks great. Hit submit. Hit submit. My deduction from the office is already there. Everything looks good to go. Hit submit. Once you've hit submit, now you let compliance know you can check everything, right? So now they're going to go into your listing agreement, make sure that 495 was there. They're going to go into your as-is contract, make sure that that price was correct. They're going to go ahead and cross-check everything. So do it all at the same time, okay? Any questions on that? If not, I'm going to jump into the buyer side.
Yes,
recorded.
question.
Sure. Hold on one second.
Oh, I don't know if somebody else wanted to go first.
Who's speaking, John?
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, going back to the TC fee, right? The transaction fee. How did I want to word this question?
How do you add it in here?
Well, yeah, cause if I remember correctly, they said you can't add it as if like you're getting paid, because you would have to pay all the things that's being deducted from your commission per se, right? If you added the TC fee in there, will be taken out of that as well. So how do you add it where to as it's not being calculated into your actual commission, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a deduction. So
Mhm.
if you go into your agent payment and hit edit, scroll
Mhm.
all the way down, there's going to be an add deduction. Deductions, bonuses, all of that happens at the top before your splits, before everything. So all of that is added at the top. Then after all that has either been added or removed, then your split begins. Does this make sense? So here, now, if you're using a transaction coordinator that's not in the list provided, please contact your MCA Dakota, and Dakota can go ahead and add them. We need to get their W-9. But let's just pretend for the sake of the class, we're using dynamic closings, and I enter the amount that I'm paying them. I hit add deduction. Once I do that, I hit save. After that, you'll see it at the top.
So John, I think I get where you were going with that question. So if you don't want to, so here's the thing is that what I've been suggesting to our agents is to not take on the cost on the DA, the transaction coordinator, and hear me out for that. If you do, Uncle Sam sees that as money moving someone else's hands. I want to tax that. Now you're getting taxed for funds that you yourself don't necessarily need.
Right.
So what I
That's
do-
exactly what I was going with that.
So
Yeah.
correct. So I have so what I've been teaching agents is to make sure that you're having the conversation directly with Mr. Seller, Mr. Buyer, and ask them to pay the transaction coordinator directly. So then you're not getting taxed on that extra whatever. Because let's say you've got to the point of doing 30 transactions. Well, 30 transactions times whatever that fee is a lot of money, and that's a lot of taxes that you're paying. So you can have the buyer or the seller pay that directly. And then the other thing I was going to say on the checklist, anything that's a listing, co-broker, you'll see on.
Pause on that. Pause on that. Thank you, though. All right. Great questions, John. Love that. Get with your title company to make sure that all that can be distributed. This is recorded, so no worries. All right, next thing, let's jump into the buy side now. So that we're gonna go through quickly because it looks almost identical to what you guys just saw, except there's one little big difference is that buyer brokerage agreement. I'm gonna jump into a buyer opportunity. So one moment.
By the way, John, that's where you would put that information for your TC to get paid directly is in the additional comments for additional terms.
On the listing agreement?
Listing agreement or the buyer broker agreement.
Did you hear that, John? So in your additional terms, and I, just because I love to go back and make sure I get the right verbiage, I always go back to Adrian. Adrian, what can I write in here that's actually going to get everybody paid, right? Because if we're putting in the wrong thing, we actually potentially could get us into trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
As well. That's part of the additional terms that we teach on though for our classes. So just make sure you're getting.
Perfect, perfect.
That
Thank you, thank you.
the
All right,
that
so
the
let's,
buyers will and the seller would pay the TC's fee directly, right? That's what you're saying. Put in the additional terms, or
that's what he's saying, yes.
okay, okay, gotcha.
All right, so let's take a look at the buy side real quick and then we're done. Hopefully, if it'll ever load. In the WhatsApp group. Yeah, I put them in right after. All right, so a couple of things again, make sure that when you have a property, you are changing the opportunity name from buyer to property address, okay? This is only when you have an executed offer. If you're still submitting offers, but nothing has been executed yet, please do not change that. You're just gonna get yourself confused and us confused. So until it is executed, don't come back and change that. All right, let's jump into documents. For a buyer, again, we're gonna have those great checklists, single family condo, townhome, your referrals. We have commercial buyer and new construction. So let's take a look at consultation. So for a buyer under consultation, you're gonna have your 3 new forms. Number 1, pre-touring agreement. So are we just like kind of blind dating right now? Okay. Then you have your showing agreement. All right, I kind of like you, but I'm not in love with you yet. Then we have a buyer brokerage agreement. Oh my God, marry me, right? So make sure that if wherever you're at with your buyer, you're getting those documents uploaded. Hopefully they want to marry you right away and you get your buyer brokerage agreement. Either way, it is required once they're going to marry you for you to upload that. Okay. Remember, conditional means if applicable. Under contract. And just a reminder, guys, do not go out and show any properties to buyers or tenants until you have an agreement signed. Don't get yourself into trouble for no reason. Nobody's worth it. All right, next thing, MLS sheet. Need it, required. Tax record. I need to know that my client is going under contract with the correct seller, period. Purchase contract and addenda. Again, buyer's agents, do not select addendas that do not apply to your contract. COVID-19 is done. If you see that on there, you're using the wrong contract. Okay, always make sure you're looking at the bottom left. Look at the most revised version. Make sure you're up to date. If you're using DocuSign, you will be. All right, escrow letter. My client said they're going to make 2 deposits. So how many letters do I need? Simple. You have your 2 placeholders for it, or you can provide 1 letter with both deposits, whatever title's willing to do for you. Net sheet. So you can actually have title create a net sheet for your buyer. Okay, so that is now going to be required as well. And I will tell you, I've asked Adrian to explain this to me 100 different ways to make sure that I know how to explain it to you guys. And the best thing he told me was get them to talk to their title partner. Title can create it for the buyer side. Simple. No overthinking. Just go to title and have them create this net sheet for your buyer. All right, great. Then we have our seller's property disclosure signed by who? All parties. Okay, make sure you have that. Wire fraud prevention. We live in Florida. Back to that. ABA mortgage and title. Again, this is just advising your client, hey, we have a business relationship with these 2 companies. You need to know about it. Don't gotta use them, but you gotta know about it. All right. Oh, I chose condo townhomes. Hold that thought. All right, I looked at the condo docs and said, wait, what? All right, we're making it. Yeah, we're making it. First Central for you guys are in a newfound relationship with our mortgage partners. So your ABA is coming to your DocuSign between today and tomorrow. Okay, so look out for that in your DocuSign. Excuse me. All right, then we have the compensation agreements as well as the modification if necessary. Again, conditional, blasting disclosure. Again, if applicable, make sure you get it signed. We do not have a lot of agents and other brokerages that have that document. So when you are representing a buyer, you must present it to them and say, hey, I need your seller to sign this, okay? Do your due diligence. Again, this is just to make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's. FHA, VA, lead-based paint, pre-78, renovated or not, get that thing uploaded. HOA disclosure, if applicable, a condo rider, housing for older persons, addendum 1 through 3, and that net sheet is in there twice. Forgive me, user error, human error. But you guys get the drift, right? So consultation, buyer brokerage agreement is required. The other 2 are conditional. Under contract, we have all your requireds up at the top and then any conditionals towards the bottom. Now, what I didn't talk to you guys about was the close section. And that's because before we get to the close section, you got to make sure you're uploading documents and doing your commission tab. But let's talk about this closed section. What do we need here? If a modification to compensation was done between going under contract and getting to the closing table, we need a copy of it. We need the copy of it. So make sure you guys are uploading. Walkthroughs. It's optional right now. Eventually, we are going to require them. So just kind of look out for that. Make it a best practice. Then you have your copy of commission checks or your wire confirmation, the copy of your HUD or ALTA statement. But you see your DAs at the top. The reason why your DA is at the top is because your DA will be placed in there if everything has been approved prior to you getting to closing. If you, on average, will get to the closing table between 30 to 45 days, you should be uploading right away. And if you do this right, everything will be approved within 7 to 10 business days. If you do this wrong, it won't get approved until after closing. And guess who doesn't get paid at the table? Y'all. And I don't know about you, but I like getting paid at the table. I enjoy it very much. It's very nice. Because I do. I had an agent here, Miss Wilma Sally, just said I enjoy teaching this class. I do. I like to get you guys paid at the table. So with that, make sure you guys are uploading your documents on time. Make sure you're creating your offers and commissions. But most importantly, make sure you're checking on your opportunities again. I'll tell you a real life story that happened to me, and I teach this class. I had a rental, submitted documents. Yay, I did everything great. I forgot to follow up. And like almost 2 weeks later, when I finally remembered, oh, let me check. I had like 3 documents rejected because I was missing an initial. I was missing 1 document. It was like a ton of little stuff. So it happens, guys. So if you want it done right, you got to make sure you're following up. You will get notifications. I thought this was my phone. You will get notifications on your phone. If you have your commands app and you have logged into it. But guys, this can be a much simpler process if you make it that. Okay, we are not trying to make your lives harder. We're not trying to not pay you. We just need to make sure we're in compliance, especially now we're under a microscope. And I don't know about you guys, but we love our licenses.
Something this last week that we sent out a notification to all of our, at least to mine, to Central.
What?
We are actually required to hold the
Pause on that. Pause on that. Pause on that. Pause on that. I actually removed it as per Adrian. So that's why I'm telling you pause on that. When you were going to say it earlier, pause on that. It will be, but pause on that. What Dakota just said, pause on that. We'll teach it again next month, but pause on that. Yeah, I'll get with you on that in a second. All right. So with that, guys, make sure that you guys are submitting. Once you have submitted everything, and you're going to see some beautiful green words that say approved next to each checklist, you will see your DA uploaded. Our wonderful Dakota actually goes in pretty much daily, I think, and he goes through anything that's ready for DA. He gets tagged for it, he can view it, and then he can create that DA for you. But without you guys doing this, he can't create anything. You look like you have a question. Okay. Oh, same. My toes are numb. All right. So guys, with that, thank you so much. It was obviously longer than 30 minutes, so I'm so sorry, but I hope you guys got something out of it. I am teaching it what's today? Tuesday. I'm teaching it again tomorrow and Thursday. So if you guys need to join, our wonderful Dawn has sent the Eventbrite link with each individual session. Need to join again, join me either tomorrow or Thursday. But with that, Zoom world, if you guys don't have any questions, we're good to go. All right, fam. Peace out. Happy hustling. Go be productive.